so that you can allow also honorable members of parliament to interact with you after your submission. This time around, I want to request you to proceed with your submission, madam.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I'll hand over to our senior researcher, Madam P, who's going to take us through our written submission.
Good morning once again. Thank you. I'll be taking through our submission. PMRC were requested to provide comments on the memorandum providing commentary on the agreement on fisheries subsidies under the World Trade Organization, with particular emphasis on whether Zambia should ratify the agreement. Under this memorandum, PMRC has done an analysis, and I'll just run you through the summary. The agreement establishes multilateral rules to address the most harmful forms of fisheries subsidies. It is the first World Trade Organization agreement with a primary focus on sustainability, which includes provisions that prohibit the subsidies that contribute to illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing under Article 3. It bans subsidies for fishing of overfished stocks unless measures are put in place to rebuild the stock under Article 4. It prohibits subsidies for fishing outside national jurisdiction or the competence of regional fisheries management organizations under Article 5. It requires enhanced transparency and reporting obligations under Article 8. It provides special and differential treatment for developing and least developed countries, including transition periods and technical assistance under Article 6 and 7, and establishes a World Trade Organization Committee on Fishery Subsidies to oversee implementation and review progress under Article 9. So it's important to note that the agreement applies exclusively to marine wild capture fisheries, and inland fisheries and aquaculture are explicitly excluded from the scope. So just to note that the subsidies that are being referred to include fuel subsidies, tax breaks, low interest loans, vessel construction and acquisition grants, and basically these grants that have potential to encourage overfishing and degradation. So they may not directly impact Zambia in a way. However, there are some benefits perhaps that we could discuss. In Zambia's context and the implications that we looked at, since Zambia is a landlocked country and not directly involved in marine capture fishing, however, it's a member of the World Trade Organization, and some trade interactions are occurring with various countries that are engaged in marine fisheries, and therefore we may be necessitated to comply with emerging global rules. The key implications for Zambia include no immediate restrictions that apply, as I mentioned earlier, as they do not cover inland or aquaculture subsidies, which are Zambia's primary areas of focus. But there are other implications concerning transparency and reporting obligations that may still apply, particularly in the context of Zambia's participation in regional trade or fisheries cooperation initiatives. Zambia also stands to benefit from the technical assistance and capacity building support, which is going to be coordinated through the World Trade Organization mechanisms, which could then enhance fisheries governance at national and regional levels. The fisheries subsector, as we know, for Zambia has great potential but is still underdeveloped, mainly due to a reliance on natural bodies for fishing, and we may still need assistance in developing our aquaculture sector, as this could provide potential for job creation as well as higher economic generation for development. In terms of ratifying, Zambia's position would then solidify its role in terms of actually in relation to the Sustainable Development Goal of Goal number 14, which is life below water, of which Zambia subscribes to the SDGs. In terms of the alignment of this agreement with Zambia's fisheries and aquaculture policy, although Zambia is not a marine fishing nation, the agreement aligns with some of the provisions that are spelled out in our aquaculture policy of 2023, which envisions an efficient, competitive, sustainable and export-led fisheries and aquaculture subsector. and this positions the sector as a strategic pillar for food and nutrition security, employment creation, economic diversification, and international trade. Some of the key priorities of our fisheries policy include sustainable fish production and productivity, strengthening extension services, research and market linkages, improving aquaculture, animal health, and reducing environmental degradation, as well as mainstreaming cross-cutting issues into the sector. So for Zambia, we still need to build national capacity in terms of collecting, managing, as well as reporting on the status of fisheries and fish stocks, which are some of the provisions that are spelled out in this agreement. We also still need to build our capacity in terms of research and development and strengthening value chains within the sector for increased exploitation as well as participation of locals. As I had mentioned earlier, that our fisheries subsector is still underdeveloped, and we may need assistance, technical assistance that this agreement is offering. So the World Trade Agreement on Fisheries Subsidies supports the ambitions of our aquaculture policy in several ways, as it reinforces Zambia's effort to combat illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, which is a major challenge in Zambia, especially under the artisanal capture fisheries. We are still struggling with regulating the sector, resulting in overfishing, illegal and illegality as well. Even when bans are instituted, we still have poor fishing methods. So those are some of the challenges that we're experiencing in our fisheries sector. It also seeks to strengthen obligations on transparency and reporting, which are crucial to policy enforcement, effective co-management and informed investment. It provides special and differential treatment for least developed countries, as well as enabling Zambia to access capacity building and technical support to improve the governance and infrastructure. In terms of infrastructure for our fisheries sector, we still need support with restocking, quality control, fingerlings, fish breeding centers in order to expand the sector beyond open water fishing, which is the traditional approach for livelihood within the sector. And expanding infrastructure around the sector would actually allow us to continue to fish even off-season, and therefore creating employment and income-generating activities for many of the people that are surviving within the sector. It also aligns with Zambia's target, which is to reduce the national fish deficit. Currently, we are estimated the fish deficit at about 74,000 metric tons. By boosting aquaculture and growth and sustainable capture fisheries from the capacity building that we are likely to receive. So this just builds the case for why Zambia perhaps may need to ratify this agreement. As of 2021, the aquaculture production in Zambia had risen to about 63,000 metric tons, with the country ranking among the top 10 aquaculture producers in Africa, which positions us as fifth position in Southern Africa. The sector supports the livelihoods of over 1 million people, both directly and indirectly. So despite the progress that we have made, the country's per capita fish consumption has still dropped to below 7 kg compared to 12 kg in the previous past. Ratifying this agreement would then bolster Zambia's aspirations to double aquaculture output through support of aquaculture high potential zones, increase per capita fish consumption, formalize artisanal fishing practices, and reduce post-harvest losses, as well as attract sustainable investment and to strengthen regional export competitiveness. The agreement also complements national efforts that seek to transform as well as modernize the fisheries sector. It also presents a timely opportunity to reinforce Zambia's leadership in sustainable inland fisheries management and aquaculture development. In terms of the status of ratification, as of April 2025, Zambia had not yet deposited its instruments of acceptance for the agreement. The agreement can only come into force when there is acceptance by 2/3 of the members in order for it to take force. A number of African countries have actually done this This is Kenya and Nigeria, for example. They've already ratified the agreement. So some of the recommendations that PMRC seeks to present to this committee on whether Zambia should ratify or not. So although the agreement does not impose new restrictions to Zambia's existing inland and aquaculture subsidies, so we don't really see much of an impact or a negative impact on whether we ratify the agreement. It also seeks to support sustainable global fisheries which are in alignment with Zambia's environmental and policy commitments. It will provide developing and least developed countries with transition periods that are flexible and enable us to access technical support, as I had stated earlier. It will enable Zambia to strengthen its position in global trade and development negotiations without incurring disproportionate obligations. So in conclusion, Zambia may actually ratify this agreement in order to develop solid national fisheries management systems that can then help us collaborate better with our neighboring countries, especially in instances where we have shared water bodies, enabling us to sustainably manage these water bodies as well as the fish stocks that are contained in them, and help us share data through the various mechanisms that may be instituted from this agreement. With that, Chair, I end my submission. Thank you.
Madam, thank you very much for your submission. Honorable colleagues, are there questions or points of clarifications? Yes, Honorable Tenko.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll take you back to page 5. First of all, I wanted to find out what negative impact would Zambia face in case we do not ratify this agreement. Then on page 5, bulleting, it should be number 4, where it says it aligns with the Zambia's target to reduce the national deficit of fish to about 74,000 metric tons. Then on paragraph 2 says, as of 2021, the aquaculture production in Zambia had risen to 63,418 metric tons. Now I just wanted to find out, I thought maybe we should have concentrated more of our efforts in trying to strengthen our legal system, especially when it comes to aquaculture. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's no legal framework for aquaculture. We've been depending on the national policy that was effected from 2022 running up to 2026. Why don't we concentrate our efforts in strengthening our legal framework when it comes to aquaculture fishing?
Thank you, Honorable Malambo. Madam, take note. We'll allow 3 members to ask, then we'll give you time to answer. Yes, Honorable.
Chair, thank you most sincerely, and thank you for your good presentation. I want to find out on the agreement, the World Trade Organization agreement, Article 4.1. No member shall grant or maintain subsidies for fishing or fishing-related activities regarding an overfished stock. Currently in the country, we have leagues that are being sponsored under CDF through the loans that are being given to many of our upcoming fishermen. I think that also constitutes to subsidies. How do you look on this clause? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Is there another question, Honorable colleagues? Madam, you can proceed to respond to those 2 concerns.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll begin with the first question that looked at some of the negative impacts with regards to us not ratifying this agreement. I think mostly it borders on international diplomacy, excuse me, as well as the trade diplomacy that we'll have. So us not ratifying it will actually prove wrongly, or it might actually give us less international diplomacy with that regards, because we're trying to strengthen our trade agreements, and we're also trying to live in a globalized world where we also need to play And also, given the fact that we also are trying to enhance trade amongst other countries, so us not signing to this will actually impact us negatively with regards to our international diplomacy. The second question was looking at the legal framework. Quite right, yes, we do know to say that it's actually important to have both policy and legal frameworks, and that's actually us ratifying to this will also put us in line with some of the provisions that are within the agreement, that is to strengthen our legal provisions as well. So once we ratify that, that will be one of the key strategies or the key areas that, or the key measures that government will need to put in place by ensuring that we have got adequate legal as well as a policy framework that will govern our aquaculture system. Then when it comes to the issues to do with the CDF, yes, I think this agreement also looks at prohibiting subsidies that actually lead to overfishing as well as overcapacity, and maybe that is one of the areas that would lead to that. But it also calls for strengthening monitoring with regards to such issues. So what will be important now is to have an adequate monitoring mechanism that will ensure that the fishermen actually adhere to the rules and guidelines that are stipulated to ensure that we protect our fisheries as well. So that will call for increased surveillance, and maybe we might not have the capacity to do that. Maybe that's one of the negative aspects, but in order to ensure that we preserve and protect our aquaculture, we need to ensure that we put adequate mechanisms in place with regards to monitoring. And also within the trade agreement, it doesn't just look at subsidies that are prohibited, but it also looks at subsidies that can be, that are good in terms of maybe subsidizing the research and development, which is one of the areas that are quite hanging low. So as well as strengthening these measures within CDF, we can also try to see, maybe we also look at it in terms of also strengthening research and development under that, so that we ensure that we do protect our aquaculture and also ensure that we do not overfish, and we're in line with the regulations within the trade agreement. My colleague also add on to other concerns.
Okay, maybe just to add on the last question around CDF loans. I'm aware that some of the loans also that are being accessed through CEEC is to encourage infrastructure development around the sector, mainly looking at, for example, fish breeding centers. I think there has been some effort around that. So when it comes to overfished stocks, if we continue to invest in this infrastructure, we should be able to enhance our restocking efforts. Yeah.
Okay, honorable colleagues, more questions?
I take it that this agreement is going to be signed, if it is signed by Zambia, but we have water bodies, predominantly 3/4 of our water bodies are in the peripherals of our country, like Lake Tanganyika and Zambezi River. So if we implemented this as Zambia to protect the depleting space, how about if these other bordering countries do not sign? What is the advice that you can give to the committee?
Yes, madam.
So looking at it, in order for this agreement to be in effect, 2/3 of the countries under the ones under the World Trade Organizations need to be signatory to this agreement. And if that is met, then the what we call multilateral as well as bilateral treaties that we have, so that will also go to government with the agreements that we will have with these other countries. Should they not sign, they need to be aware of the legal ramifications that we have as a country and what we also need to do in line with what we've agreed to. So there needs to be a consensus, and it also comes back to the diplomatic ties that are there. We need to strengthen the dialogues that will be there, and also to ensure that there are no infringements that will be made. So I think it will be quite cardinal that governments should play a key role with regards to the diplomatic ties, and also ensure that both parties are at a win-win situation with that regards.
Yes, Honorable Katambo.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and sorry for coming late because I'm running into two committees. Yeah. We are a landlocked country, and we are not engaged into these marine or high-sea fisheries as a country. Don't you think we may face administrative and compliance costs under the agreement without receiving trade resources or access benefits to these agreements. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Yes, Madam.
Yes, with regards to that, we will face some administrative costs, because it's also calling for enhanced surveillance as well as monitoring, and also for capacity to be built with regards to monitoring and ensuring that our aquaculture systems are actually protected. But when you're looking at that, we also come to the fisheries as well as the aquaculture policy. It actually has similar provisions within, and the measures that are there are similar to what is in the policy itself. So already the policy has an implementation framework as well as a budget tied to that, and most of it is actually in line with what the treaty is actually calling for. So I don't think that the constraint will be quite large per se, but it's something that we've actually anticipated under our policy, and it's also in line. And I feel if at all anything, maybe we can also look at it in terms of some of the low-hanging fruits that government can have with regards to these treaties. If there will be some grants as well as any other foreign financing that government can actually get or maybe apply to ensure that our resources are actually supported by this agreement as well. But I actually feel as though the financial constraint won't be that much, given that we are also in the process of implementing our own policy.
Thank you. Yes.
I'll take you to the actual agreement itself under Article 7 on technical assistance and capacity building. I'll just read it out in case other members may not have the agreement. Targeted technical assistance and capacity building assistance to developing country members, including least developed country members, shall be provided for the purpose of implementation of the disciplines of this agreement. In support of this assistance, a voluntary World Trade Organization funding mechanism shall be established in cooperation with relevant international organizations such as FAO and International Fund for Agriculture Development. The contributions of members to the mechanism shall be exclusively on voluntary basis and shall not utilize regular budget resources. So maybe that just answers Honorable Katambo's question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, honorable members. Yeah, a quick one, Madam. Yeah, on page 5. This is a paragraph after bullet point number 4. As of 2021, aquaculture production in Zambia had increased to 63,418 metric tons, with the country ranking among the top 10 aquaculture producers in Africa and 5th in Southern Africa. Now there is this sentence which has just struck me. Despite this progress, the country's per capita fish consumption has dropped to below 7 kgs, almost half, okay, compared to historical levels of 12 kgs. What has led to this? The production has increased, but the capita consumption has reduced. Yes, what has made us to reach to this level?
Okay, with regards to that, Chair, the major reason as to that is because of the high cost of living. As it is, we're struggling with our inflation levels. We're still not within the ideal threshold of having inflation between 6 to 8%. We're about 15%. So looking at it, the prices of fish commodities have actually increased, and also looking at the basic food need basket, most of the commodities that Zambians need to have are also on the high end. So you'd actually find that production might have increased, but people do not actually have the capacity to afford these products because they're actually quite expensive, and also looking at the cost of living and the high inflation that we're experiencing as a country.
Thank you very much. Honorable colleagues. PMRC, we want to thank you very much for this intelligent debate between yourselves and members of Parliament on Committee on Agricultural Lands and Natural Resources. We thank you very much. And as we are now winding up on our program today, the minute which we are giving you this morning we just want to withdraw it from you. We expect to see you anytime soon when you'll be requested to come and appear again before this committee. We thank you very much and have a blessed afternoon.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, honorable members.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being with us on Parliament Television today, the 5th day in the month of June 2025. It is a happy World Environmental Day to Zambia and the rest of the world. I hope you're conserving those trees and keeping the environment safe for future generation. We are broadcasting live the Committee on Agriculture, Lands and Natural Resources as I continue considering the agreement on fisheries subsidies under the World Trade Organization. And just a few moments ago, we had Ms. Leah Namonje Tembo, who happens to be head monitoring and evaluation from Policy Monitoring and Research Center, PMRC, and together with her entourage discussing this very topical subject, which is the agreement on fisheries subsidies under the World Trade Organization. And yesterday we had a very interesting discourse where Madam Isabel Mukelebai from Civil Society for Poverty Reduction also made her submission representing the organization there. We still have one more witness to appear before this committee, and this is the Indoor Agriculture Policy Research Institute. My name is Paul Sentendo. We're still together until the committee concludes today's business. My sign language interpreter is Jason Manda. Let's be together on this channel. Keep watching.
Mexican chili, body moody, piri, I'm a feelings, yata diri, them just got that I had a lot in my room, fresh and I could make a goodie too. My father came to the rich, he was nobody like that bitch. He was a baby when I blessed you. Revelation and goodness. If I could have it some money, mate. Ushenika chumba muza pika munikake. Nipempa komutu munipase. Nika uka mailu nika peze ya mukake. Nolo wase, my life is better. Ichi chimbala, kita chisheta. Nolo waka fake, wana kisecha. Tapeta mukana, muri chukova. Mwana wafu. Mwana wafu. Chobe haruku Lelo kule nagati Mwana wangu Mwana wangu Nimefika bano wacha nichipu Masi wala kene kwezi You ever felt like you lived your life in third person? Like you can't address your pain because your hurt worsens? A hurt person with a rap skill and a microphone. I found a way to release my pain when I wrote the verses. And he called me and he cleansed me. Now I see with gladness. Surrendered all my gifts to him. That's all I had to give to him. He said, make disciples in my name. Preacher, man, I got some bread and went to fish. Now I feed the masses. See, I would battle with myself to try and fight the sin out. And the flow was like grenades when I pull a pin out. So I would use my voice to impact your spirit. Let it take your mind to Jesus every time you hear it. And Lord, remind them that you love them like you love me. Want them like you want me. With salvation comes peace. If I have nothing else in life, I'd be full of joy that you know me and you love me. And I'll see you and you smile at me. Not of the world, but in this world. So I pray I manage to speak your spirit to my listeners. And faith finds a place to roll so grace shines. Cause kingdom life is meant to be lived on both sides of the veil at the same time. When I'm a fool, when I'm a fool, so I choke it out. pressure. Nowadays I'm on my farm, I'm trying to build a true successor. Gone are the days when I was okay with feeling lesser. Nowadays I'm on my own power. I'm feeling like I'm Chester. I'm feeling like Michael. I'm feeling like I'm smoother and still alive. When I'm on a mic, I'm under the mic. I'm not alike. Not like these dudes in the cycle that cruise to the title that cannot fight, cannot battle. They're raising mama dead, you would think she was baking cakes. Boned so much, you would think she was making. Adorando Mexican chili, body moody, piri piri. I'm a feeling, see I got diddy, them just got that I'm a need when I want food, got me watching that before. I had a lot in my